It's been a topsy-turvy season for the Indianapolis Colts, from injuries to inconsistent play to an uncertain future for the man calling the shots along the sideline. The Colts have endured a hodgepodge of instability this season, so I wanted to see where this perennial playoff power fits in this year's jumbled AFC playoff race. For some answers, I turned to Kevin Bowen, a Colts writer for Colts.com, as he gave me the latest on everything surrounding the team which represents Naptown. So, Kevin, first of all, we want to say good afternoon to you and welcome to the True Man Advantage podcast, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So when we look at what Chuck Pagano's done as head coach of Indy, he's made the playoffs each of the first 3 years he's been there, but throughout the course of the season he's been on the hot seat there in Indy. So I'm just wondering if you could give me a general impression of his future with the Colts.
Yeah, I think it's something that's definitely going to be decided here the next couple of weeks. And one thing that has really plagued this team this year has been injuries. It's a very key injuries. I mean, we're talking obviously Andrew Luck, losing Anthony Costanzo for a couple of weeks. Your stalwart at left tackle, losing Arthur Jones in the preseason, one of the guy who was expected to probably be your top defensive lineman, and then losing rookie Henry Anderson on the defensive line as well. So I think injuries have really marred this team, and that's I think going to be pretty much going to play into the decision of Jim Irsay this year. Chuck Pagano's contract is up at the end of the year. Something has to be done one way or another on what you do at the head coaching position. I think at the start of the year, the expectations were extremely high for this team. Have injuries played into a reason why? The Pat Hamilton firing about midway through the season. All those things I think are going to be weighed in. So I think if this team makes a run in January, you could definitely see Chuck back here for this season. But I think it's still early, and it's crazy to say that because we are in week 13, but I think it's still a little bit, or week 14. I think it is still a little bit early to make a concrete answer on that.
Now, prior to this Sunday's loss to Pittsburgh, Matt Hasselbeck has certainly been the savior for the Colts season this year, with Andrew Luck being hurt. I'm just wondering if you could give me an idea of what Matt Hasselbeck has meant to this team, particularly considering how old he is.
Yeah, I think it's almost hard to put into words what he's meant. I think the best way to kind of judge Matt Hasselbeck and what he's done at the age of 40 is look at what backup quarterbacks around the league have done this year. And it seems like when backup quarterbacks start, teams are lucky to score 7, 14 points a game. And Matt now has led this team to 4 wins and 5 starts. He's kept them more than afloat in the AFC South and has the team in position to go to the playoffs, which is something that just doesn't happen when starting quarterbacks, let alone your franchise quarterback, Andrew Luck, goes down for what is going to be nearly half the season here if Luck does indeed miss the next couple of weeks. So Hasselbeck has been tremendous. He's the reason why the Colts wanted to bring him in 2013. I think that's something Jim Irsay learned in 2011 when Peyton Manning went down and this team went 2-14 with Curtis Painter and Dan Orlovsky and a little bit of Kerry Collins as well. Is there just wasn't a reliable backup that if you felt like you still had a playoff roster to keep you in it. So now when Andrew Luck goes down this year on 2 separate occasions, Hasselbeck has still been, and again, I don't think enough can be said for what he's done. If Andrew Luck does indeed come back, for that Houston game next week, and Matt's able to, start and win down in Jacksonville this weekend, to go 5-1 as a backup quarterback would be just beyond remarkable.
And can you give me an injury update on Andrew Luck? Obviously, Jim Irsay said recently that he's hoping to have him back for that crucial divisional game in against the Texans. So could you give me an idea on the comeback trail for Andrew Luck?
Yeah, I think that is kind of the target date. Week 15 against Houston, maybe week 16 against Miami. That would be ideal, I think, is that Houston game, considering that could be a winner-take-all game in the AFC South. Andrew Luck has ramped up his throwing in recent weeks. He still hasn't practiced, so that'll be something to watch. Does he practice at all this week? Because the hardest thing with this kidney is you can't play on an 80% kidney injury. You can play on a bum ankle, you can play on a bum, knee or foot or something like that. You can't play on a bum kidney. This is a vital organ in his body. So I think that's the hardest thing, and that's why this timetable, when it was first announced, was 2 to 6 weeks. It was so hard to pinpoint. Okay, can that heal? Can he take contact? All that stuff. So if he does indeed return for that Houston game, J.J. Watt and that front seven is playing very good football right now. So I think he's definitely not going to be eased into things by any means, facing one of the best defenses in the NFL over the past month or so. So Andrew Luck is still listed week to week on Chuck Pagano's injury report, which probably indicates that Houston or Miami here in the next couple of weeks will be kind of his best chances to get back on the field.
Do you think, though, obviously the AFC South is a two-team race now, so do you think the Colts will win the division again, or do you think Houston will take it from them this year?
I think they will win the division, but this is definitely the hardest, clinch job, if you will, that they've had in the past couple of seasons. Currently both teams sit at 6-6. The Colts play Jacksonville this weekend in a road game. Houston hosts New England on Sunday Night Football. If the Colts are able to win, which I assume they'll be favored in Jacksonville, and Houston loses to the Patriots at home, then if the Colts win in Week 15 in a home game against Houston, then they clinch the AFC South. And Houston has never won in Indianapolis. They're 0-13 as a franchise, so for them to win up here, you would be asking them to do something they've never done in their team's existence. So it's more difficult for the Colts with 4 weeks left, because in years past, there's been really little drama, late season drama for the AFC South. In 2013, the Colts clinched after a loss in Cincinnati. I believe it was a Week 14 loss in Cincy, but no other team in the division was even near 500. The Colts ended up winning the AFC South that year by 4 games. And then last year, the Colts clinched the division, ironically enough, in a Week 15 win against Houston. And Houston was several games back at that point. So as of right now, again, it's a different feel to the AFC South, because Houston is so close, and they have won, 4-5, and they're playing very good football, which is different than what we've seen the past 2 years for the Colts. But they do control their own destiny, and theoretically, if they are able to beat Jacksonville and Houston the next 2 weeks, and Houston loses to the Patriots on Sunday night, then the Colts would clinch their third straight division.
Now, if you had to describe the Colts season to this point, it's been kind of topsy-turvy. So I'm just wondering if you could give me a general overview on how you think their season's gone to this point.
I mean, it's been a topsy-turvy is a great term to use, a roller coaster, adventurous, I guess entertaining to a degree, because you just never know at every twist and turn what's going to happen. Chuck Pagano, I thought, summed it up very well in his press conference on Monday with the local media here in Indianapolis, and said, it's unlike any season I've ever experienced, and he's been around football for 30 years. You had those 2 early losses where Andrew Luck just looked so out of sorts. You had a huge comeback down in Tennessee in Week 3 when you desperately needed a win. Then Andrew Luck goes down with that shoulder injury. Matt Hasselbeck starts 2 games in 5 days. He's, nearly on his deathbed in that Houston game in Week 5. The Colts are able to bounce back, win, 2 starts with Matt. They played very well against New England in a Week 6 game. New England ended up winning that game, but that was a game the Colts led at halftime. And, they've had so many struggles with New England in the Chuck Pagano era. They lost big to New Orleans at home. Then they came back, went down to Carolina on a Monday night, and that was a crazy game, kind of a sloppy game. It's probably the closest game Carolina's had all year in their home stadium. The Colts had chances in regulation and in overtime to win that game. Then Andrew Luck probably played his best game of the season against Denver when he lacerated that kidney, and that was in early November. And the Colts, played very well against the league's #1 defense, knocked off the undefeated Broncos. And then luck goes down to last rated kidney. Matt Hasselbeck has started the past 3 games. They beat Atlanta, beat Tampa Bay, and then had their struggles on really all 3 facets of the game against Pittsburgh. So if they are at 6-6, it's a wild way to get to 6-6. They played well against the league's best, New England and Carolina, and beating Denver. But then they've had games against Pittsburgh, and then at the start of the year against Buffalo, where they got pretty much handled in that first game of the season. So it's been a crazy ride through the first 3 quarters of the season. I think the biggest thing for this team right now is dealing with a lot of injuries, is get healthy, get in, see if you can get on a run, which is going to be very difficult with how kind of top-heavy the AFC is here in 2015.
My final question for you, Kevin, is assuming that they do make the playoffs, how far do you think they'll go?
That's a great question. I do think they can win a wild card game. If they do make the playoffs, and they would obviously host that first round game. I think avoiding Pittsburgh is a big key in the wild card round. Pittsburgh has really had their number the past couple of years. So if they can play at Kansas City, or I know they lost the Jets at home earlier this year, but I think that would be a better matchup for them than playing against Pittsburgh and that potent offense. I could see them winning a game, maybe even winning 2 games. Especially if they could get, maybe a road game against Cincinnati in that divisional round. They've had some success against Cincinnati in the past couple of years. They've had success against Denver as well. So I think those are better matchups for them. It's just very difficult, I think, to get on a roll back-to-back road wins to go to the Super Bowl, which is what they had to do last year, and they couldn't do. Obviously, they won out in Denver, but then did not beat New England in the AFC Championship game. So I think that is where be very difficult for this team. I can see this team winning at home. I could see them possibly winning on the road in the divisional round, but it's a lot to ask. I think, especially this year, it's a lot to ask any team that plays in the wild card round to go possibly, 2 Cincy, 2 New England, 2 New England, 2 Denver. I think that's a very, very tough task for any team playing on the wild card round of the weekend.
Kevin, we want to thank you for your time and for joining us this afternoon on the Two Man Advantage podcast.
Not a problem at all. Thanks for having me, guys.